Welcome back, everyone, to Merge Conflict, your weekly developer podcast where we take our sweet, sweet time to do those sweet, sweet migrations. Frank Kruger, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, James, I feel like you're alluding to something, but I'm going to stay completely in denial here, but I have no idea what you're talking about. It's wonderful to see your face, though. Welcome, everyone, back to the show.
I got an email last night so I have the ski app, as you're well aware, for the ski region in the area that I built for free. And, it's a nice charity work that I do. And it's kind of cool because when I work on it for a certain amount of time, I can actually log those as Microsoft give hours for the nonprofit that runs it. And then they get money because I'm building this app, which is cool. I don't get any money. I just kind of get to do it, which is cool. So I like to do that. And I also ski there. It's free, obviously, because it's all community run. So it's great. So I got an email from Steve. Love Steve. Hey, Steve. And he's like, hey, the app is crashing. And I was like, oh, okay. But it's not iOS, it's Android. So I was like, okay, it's not an iOS 26 thing. Okay, we're good. We're good here. Yeah. So I installed the fresh version because I had the old test flight version that had expired. I booted up and sure enough, it crashes. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? So I do a little bit of research, and it's kind of a convoluted system. Like basically his website, he has like some cron jobs that hit a bunch of different APIs, cache a bunch of data from like Facebook and from other sources, and from like this skiing GPS tracker thing that they have. And then it caches in a bunch of files, and then the website and the mobile app speak to those cached files, basically, which is kind of a nice little system there. It's a very simple API, which is a file on there.
Yeah. Best kind of API.
Best kind of API. It's a file. So I was going through the endpoints, and one of the endpoints, the very first one that I hit, had this like, 400 couldn't be found, whatever. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, okay, this is it. Like that. But sure enough, I looked at my code, and I was trying to call some logic, and then I caught an exception, and I tried to call the logic again, but then I didn't try catch that. So like, obviously I went through this thing of like, I caught an exception, and then I was like, well, it'll work. Anyways, it got into a really funky state and it crashed. And I was like, that's not good. So he works with the API vendor. They get that fixed pretty quickly. Boom, that gets up, and the app no longer crashes, but it can't get any data. So I look at the data scheme. The data scheme has changed. They changed they would change one property, maybe a few properties, but one property from a string to an array of strings.
That'll do it.
And guess what? You cannot deserialize that. And boom, it gets the data, tries to deserialize it, and it's like, no. Okay, so I'm in a hard spot. So I said, hey, ski season doesn't start for a month and a half. So that means I have a month. I got a month and a half to fix this. So I said, let's just get the app working. I was like, can you create a new cache endpoint for the website that's like new or website? And then just here's a JSON file that works. And then just upload that file that works. So we're in a working state. Everything is working again.
Wait, so the app is crashing, and to get the app to stop crashing, you change the server because you have that kind of power.
That is correct.
That's tremendous. I think that's every client app developer's dream. I don't think it comes true for anyone else out there, James. You are living in the James world. That's pretty awesome.
The only problem here is that I only have this old data. So like when they start grooming and start sending out notifications, it's not going to get updated. Now, that being said, I was talking to Heather, and on our walk tonight, I said, well, what I could do is I could create an Azure function that grabs their data, parses the data, returns the data back how I want it, and then they call my new API, and then, it's a beautiful circle.
Okay, fair enough. Interesting. But again, you're putting I like that you will write the workaround, but they still have to run the workaround. I still think that's all hilarious because you refuse to update this app. James, why aren't you just updating the app?
I've only gone through migrations like 4 times, like with, through all the different tools to migrate this application. I put out one final release in March, which is my final build, which like removed in-app billing stuff and all this other stuff. It was like one last Android hurrah, go for it. before App Center shut down and all this other stuff. And I said, okay, well, I can just punt this for a year, until as long as the app keeps running,
Yeah.
I'll wait until iOS 26. If it ain't broke, no need to fix it. Well, it broke. So last night I sat down with my good friend Copilot, and I said, "Hey, Copilot, I did a few things here. Now there are a bunch of tools out there, like obviously the .NET Upgrade Assistant that I could run, but the thing is, I want my application to be .NET 10. Like I want that to be .NET 10. So that was my base, and all the tools I don't think are upgraded to do that yet. I'm not sure.
Can I correct you though? You don't actually want to be .NET 10. As I alluded to on the last episode, you want to be .NET 9.0 hyphen iOS 26.0. That's actually what you want to be because you want the glass effect, James. We talked how we love the glass effect now. You got to get those glassy buttons on your app.
Well, but if I'm .NET 10, will I want to get glass?
No. So the funny thing is, I mean, perhaps with RC2,
Okay.
so I'm talking about everything in the RC1 world. In the RC1 world, Xcode 26 support, SDK 26 support is only available in .NET 9 apps. 9 hyphen
9 hyphen
iOS 26.
That's got to be coming to 10 RC2.
I hope so, because it seems so weird having to put all that .NET 9 stuff. Like, it's funny because my global JSON file references .NET 10 because it only comes with the .NET 10 SDK. Yeah. And it references the .NET 10 workloads because the .NET 10 workloads contain the .NET 9 iOS 26 support. Version numbers mean absolutely nothing anymore in this day and age.
No. Okay, well, I'm going to have to figure that out, but luckily I have a month and a half to figure it out. My goal is to get this update out by Thanksgiving, which would be GA would already have happened. But I sat down with Copilot last night in VS Code, and what I did is I first installed Visual Studio 2026, because that's the best way, in my opinion, to just get .NET, all the workloads, all the stuff, just get it. Okay. And VS 2026, very fast. Copilot super good, very good stuff, but it doesn't have codec. It doesn't have codecs yet. So I was like, I'm going to sit down with GPT-5 codecs, and GPT-5 codecs. A lot to think, a lot to parse all the things. Yeah. So I'm like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write this big chunky prompt, and I have my Microsoft Learn MCP server set up, and I have my GitHub MCP server set up, and I have my Xamarin Forms code base, and I create a new project, Meisner Next. I created .NET 10, file new template, go. I write this big chunky prompt, and I'm like, here's what I want you to do. In this folder, here's this thing. And then in this folder, here's this .NET MAUI thing. I said, with all the knowledge of the documentation, take a look, research, understand how to migrate, how to do this, understand what's happening in .NET 10, do this, upgrade from Newtonsoft.json to System Text JSON, upgrade to the latest version of Maps UI, do this stuff. And it's like this big chunky font. And I'm like, go. And then what I do in VS Code, I go, YOLO mode, bro, let's do this. I said, just run. I said, I'm just going to go watch Hulu. I'll check on you every half an hour. Go. It's cranking. It's cooking. Yeah. It's cooking. 2.5 hours go by. It's still cooking.
No. Really?
It's going. It's converting.
It's not that big of an app though, but okay. Love it.
It was doing so much thinking, this and that and this. And it's also converting. I also told it to convert everything from what I had to the community toolkit MVVM and all this. I said, modernize it, modern syntax, all that stuff. It's cooking. And I was like, I'm going to bed. And I'll just wake up in the morning and see what happens.
With the bill. Okay.
I don't know. It's one premium request. It's just a cook.
Is it really? So that long thing is just one premium request?
That's one.
I don't understand these business models. Okay.
This is one.
You are like heating up half of a small room in compute power.
Yeah. Now, I mean, that being said, probably actually using the .NET Upgrade Assistant, doing this stuff, it probably would have been a lot faster. Static analysis always faster than the AI, but it was calling the MPC. It was doing this. It was calling all the documentation because the community toolkit does and here and there, and it's doing warnings. I wake up this morning, it's done. I don't know when it finished. It was pretty. It was very, very. It was very, very close before I went to bed. Everything was basically done. So it might have
Okay.
ran for like another half an hour. I don't know, so maybe 2-3 hours
So is it
total.
doing that thing it does, like, when it does, like, builds and tests? Like, is it checking on itself that whole time? 'Cause it's
Oh
fun when it
yeah.
gets into that cycle. It's like, "I built something. I don't like what happened. I ran a test. I don't like the results of that test." And I'm like, "Buddy, you wrote those tests,"
Yeah.
just saying.
I did this with another really small app, and it took like less than a half an hour. So it was like really
Okay.
small, like no nothing magical in it. And it was really, really fast. But those results were like okay.
Okay.
Frank, these results were like 1-to-1, but
Oh,
modernized. Like the code was modernized, the MVVM was modernized. It converted like
okay.
anything that was obsolete to new things, and the app side by side,
Yeah.
indistinguishable.
That's okay.
That's
I'm actually impressed because I have to say, love the AIs. Not saying anything. Don't come after me, robots. Whenever I've had something run for that long a period, it's usually making a mess. Like
what.
it is just digging a hole, burying itself, and digging the hole even deeper.
Yeah,
Usually. So
I,
this
I
was GPT-5 codex. You said.
GTP5 codecs, yeah. And it was cooking. And the thing with GPT-5 codecs compared to maybe like a Claude Sonnet, which is exploratory, the thing that I really like about GPT-5 and GPT-5 codecs is how it's thinking and how it's parsing. So I was reading the messages, and what it was doing is it was like it gathered, it scanned, it like gathered every single context of every single file, is going through it, like understanding the different parts, like how I orchestrate everything. That takes some time to do this, and it's thinking, and you see the output now in VS Code of its thinking model. And after it started converting files by files and this and that and that is doing in order, it's like, oh, cool, I'm going to go check my work. And then I went through and it's like, I'm
Mm.
going to check my work. And I went through boom, and boom, and boom. And it's like, I'm going to test my work. I'm going to do this. Like, oh, okay, I need to do that. And it's like, oh, once it fixed one warning, it's like, I'm going to go fix this other thing. So it was like really, really, really going through it. And I would say, um, I had to fix like one thing, which is it forgot to do a dot use ski a sharp or whatever,
Yeah. Okay.
because that didn't exist before. That's new in the .NET Maui world. But besides that, it pretty much just like one shot at it, two shot at it, maybe three shot at it or whatever. Very impressive. And I was like, dang, I was
Yeah.
like, that was wild. And then I started refining it, and I actually opened up VS 2026. I think Maui works a little bit easier there. And I was a Revin with GPT, just normal GPT-5 because Codex isn't there yet. And man, I was cooking, man. I was cooking. And my new favorite thing, and VS Code doesn't have this. Oh, and I didn't even know VS had this, or I didn't use it before. But I was running into that Skia Sharp thing. Like every time I went to the interactive map of Maps UI or
Mm.
Maps UI, it would
Hmm.
crash. I'm like, I don't know what it's telling me.
Oh.
And in
Yeah.
Visual Studio 2026, when that uncaught exception dialog comes up, it says analyze with Copilot. And it actually has a debug agent, and it gathers all of the debug logs, all of the stuff and the
Oh.
context, and it parses it and gives you a recommendation. It's like, hey, just so you know, like the thing is that like the deep rooted things is like Ski Sharp wasn't initialized. I looked at the documentation. You need to add this thing. Do you want me to add that for you? Sounds good. And I was like, what? And I ran it like three times and like three weird bugs,
Oh
Maui
god.
conversion
Yeah.
bugs. And I was like, dude, that is crazy. So, anyways, it's cooking. It's done. There's a few little tiny tweaks for like, just modern OSs that obviously
Mhm.
like weren't in the old app, new app icons, things like that, I'm SVGs that I'm working on. But besides that, it's pretty much solid and good to go. I mean, to be honest with
Wow.
you, I was really impressed. But as you said, it's not like I'm, creating, Snapchat or Facebook or, WhatsApp or something like that. But I was like, wow, I've done this exercise. I've done this exercise
Yeah.
many times. And this is what's important about it. When I think about these models, I think about AI, and people are sick of us talking about AI, but I don't care. Is like, I talk to people and they're like, wow, I have like hundreds of screens. I have all this stuff. I was like, you could let this thing cook. Like it was so crazy because I was just reading the
Mm.
Anthropic, how like they had Claude Sonnet 4.5 like build Claude or whatever, and
Yeah.
they let it cook for 30 hours. Like that's crazy.
Oh.
Yeah,
I didn't know that. So it's funny. It was one of those. I read the headline. I didn't actually read the article. I didn't know they let it run for 30 minutes. Yeah, they did the funny experiment. Like I think they tried different versions of Claude to build Claude.ai, like rebuild
yeah,
this web app. That's fun. That's a good dog
yeah.
fooding your own thing. Like I mean, chat interfaces really aren't that complicated, but
Yeah.
it's something. It has to do like streaming inputs. Anyway, I should go back and actually read that article. I did not know it ran for 30 minutes.
There.
Your two and a
Yeah.
half hours is looking quite anemic at this
Yeah.
point. Like, oh God,
Well,
that's nothing.
they said before, like Opus 4.1 could run for 7 hours and then it would like give
Okay.
up. It's like, we're good. But this
Oh.
now it can run for like 30 hours. Like that's a long time to run and cook. But yeah, it was really fascinating experiment. I know obviously now there's like a .NET, there is a .NET modernization for GitHub Copilot, which is like specific on like upgrading versions of .NET and like moving to
Gotcha.
Azure and doing stuff that like can really help out. I don't think it does framework yet, but I'm just saying like there's enough documentation, enough samples that I was really impressed. It even the one thing that really impressed me is that I had Maps UI 4.0 and then there was Maps UI 5.0 and they make changes. It was smart enough to be like, oh, this thing's open source. Oh, I'm going to look for documentation. And oh, I
Okay.
found the migration markdown file on the GitHub repo. And I was like,
Oh.
dang. Because I was watching, I was watching the MCP server and the stuff work. I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, that is crazy. Like that's what I would have done. Right. Anyways, it's cooking, it's doing the thing. And then, I was like, hey, this repo over here has all the cool YAML files, go grab the YAML files for building iOS and Android, grab that down and convert it to work in this project. It's like, cool, I got you. So, I think it was a cool cook and I've done it a lot of times. And this one by far was not only the most accurate,
Yeah.
it definitely needed the less finessing, which even though it cooked for longer, actually needed less hours of me working on it in general. So I would say in total time
That's
so
a
far, I've
win.
spent like 4 hours on it, maybe. And 3 of those hours were at cooking, if that makes sense.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm jealous. I had kind of the opposite experience. So, I'm once again, I got to be learning from you. I got to try the automation approach before I try the Frank tried and true approach, which is bang my head against the monitor for 8 to 20 hours until it's working. I mean, my approach works. It's guaranteed to work eventually, but I
Yeah.
should really try this automation thing you keep talking about. I
Well, what
don't
did you
that's
have
pretty
to
cool.
do? Yeah. What did you have to do? Because you apparently also converted an app this week.
Yeah, I got a similar email to you. Your app crashes. And I'm just like, oh gosh.
Oh,
I worked so
no.
hard at the software quality, my career. Like I try to think I write pretty non-crashy code these days. Not true. So like you, I rushed out new versions of Continuous is my IDE for .NET, C Sharp, and F Sharp development on the iPad and the iPhone. Go get it. Help me out. Um, I did an update to it, version 1.5. And I did it in March because we couldn't upload using the new Xcode anymore. So it's right there with you doing the whole migration. I'm sure we talked about it on the episode at some point.
Mm-hmm.
It quickly followed up by a 1.5.1 because you never nail those dot zeros. There's always something wrong with those. So the app is at version 1.5.1. And it's tricky because it's a big app that is very much tuned to the Xamarin ecosystem. I was running an interpreter on iOS before any kind of interpreters existed in .NET or anything like that. So this is very much a Xamarin app. And I'm not saying like Xamarin Forms. It technically supports forms, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm like deep down, it knows the object model, it knows the type system, and it makes assumptions about the environment it's running in. And so you can imagine I'm kind of stuck at that version 1.5.1 because I can no longer submit apps using the old Xcode, and that's required. In order to new Xcodes are required to submit apps, and the old Xamarin doesn't support the new Xcode. So if I ever want to make an update to this app, I have to port it over to the new .NET.
Yep.
There's a lot of problems with that though. Like the old app does support Xamarin Forms, and even though Xamarin Forms is now deprecated or sunset, whatever word we use for that, it's been replaced by Maui. And it would make sense for a new version of the app to not have Xamarin Forms, but it's a different app at that point. I'm removing a feature and all that kind of stuff. And so I kept having this debate, especially with that email saying it crashes on their iPad. So, luckily, after a day of freaking out and debating what to do, I thought maybe I should actually test whether the app is crashing.
Yeah.
And so I got out all my devices on all sorts of different versions of iOS, downloaded the App Store version of the app. The biggest problem with being a developer is you just have the weirdest versions of all your apps on all your devices.
Yep.
So, deleted all this stuff, made it a clean slate, downloaded onto those devices, and oh, thank goodness it doesn't actually crash. So
Oh, that's
there's
good.
something specific to their environment that's causing the crash, and I'll work with that user to figure out exactly what's going on there. But mostly because I'm in this very awkward, stuck state of I just can't update the app without A, removing a bunch of features, or B, putting in months of work. Maybe I should take a clue from you and actually use the AIs to help me with some of that kind of porting. But I did decide, let's give it a shot at least. Let's see what it would take to get this thing over to modern.net. And I went straight for the .NET 9.0 hyphen iOS 26. It's technically the .NET 10 SDK. And I said, let's just do this. Let's sit down and do this. And it's definitely a tricky app because I said it had all those Xamarin dependencies, but it's also an F# app. It's
Oh,
a lot of
wow.
F# code. And I was making fun of AI support for Swift. The AIs are much better at C#. F#, they're okay at. They can handle it, but it's definitely they've not learned from as much code out there as other things. Um, so I was a little bit nervous about just going the full automation route, but maybe I should have at least tried it. So before I go any further, how do you think about the scenario I've put myself into here?
Well, you're at least in a better state where it wasn't crashing for everybody. So I feel good about that. I mean, even in my
Yeah,
case, at least I had a
I do.
workaround, which wasn't subpar. I mean, luckily for me, it's like no one's really opening the app until ski season. So who knows how long it was crashing for in my case. I feel good. I mean, I feel like, you're going to have to do it at some point. And like, even if the app works for another 2 to 4 years, 5 years, like at some point you're like, maybe you want to add a new feature. Maybe you want to add down in Maui.
Yeah.
Maybe you're just like, you know what? I want modern updated UI because all my apps are updated besides this one. The trade-off here is it falling within your timeline for wanting to and needing to update this or not versus trade-off, right? Like, also, is it even making any money anymore, right? Like,
Mhm.
what's your time commitment? Is this going to take a week, 2 weeks, a month of your time versus like all these other apps that you're building? So that's kind of the conundrum that I think you have. But yeah, I think that it's obviously way more complicated than my use case, especially being in F#. But I feel like the one positive would be, well, I don't know. I guess you have different versions of Shisha. It's complex, but at some core, you would think you'd be able to be like, let me just file new project, F sharp .NET 9 iOS app or whatever, iPad app, and then copy all the files in. And then it should just work. Like, inherently,
Yeah.
Xamarin Forms is much more complicated because there's namespaces and architecture and resources and stuff. But inherently, an iOS app hasn't changed all that much. You still got the storyboard file, you got the launch things. Yeah, there's a few things, but not as much. But my
Mhm.
assumption is that it's not exactly what you're able to do.
So I'd say overall, if you remove my misery, you are correct.
No,
There
okay.
were a bunch of breaking changes from Xamarin into the .NET world. There's not an infinite number of them, but lots of them. And you actually do have to get through them, but no like architectural changes. There'd be like a lot of changes in the spelling of a name or something like that, or they moved it over here and then now it's over there. And float native integer, native unsigned native integer. Those ones drive me nuts because I can never remember where they actually ended up because they kept moving around during the early .NET betas. Um, so I did your advice. I did file new project. I started with Mac Catalyst because I thought it'd be easier to actually develop. One of the nice things about .NET is it has Mac Catalyst support, which you're still programming against the iOS UI kit SDK, but you're getting a Mac app and it's a little easier to debug and work with than dealing with devices and all that, having to
Yeah.
create full builds and all that kind of stuff. So I went that approach, and I did have to like just keep big sledgehammer disabling features. Disable Xamarin Forms. Disable. One of the problems with the app is because it had to run without downloading code from the internet. These are all Apple policy things, not technology reasons. I had to bundle in all the libraries that I would think anyone would ever use. So this thing had dependencies up the wazoo. This thing had downloaded half a NuGet in order to package as many libraries with it as it possibly could. And so with a giant sledgehammer, I just had to keep disabling those. But you're right. Like it's an iOS app, and fundamentally, I know how to work with iOS apps, and I just kept bringing in one one file at a time. F sharp is kind of nice, unlike C sharp, where it's actually a layered approach. Your first file depends on nothing. It's its own thing. The second file can depend on the first file. The third file can depend on the second and the first. So when you're porting a F sharp app, you can actually just go one at a time and bring them in sequentially, because you're guaranteed the lower ones, or whatever, the upper ones don't depend on the lower ones.
Yeah.
It's actually a feature F sharp gets. New users to F sharp kind of hate it. They think it's a little barbaric, but I don't know. The longer you've maintained software, you really start to approach that forced layering. Like everyone talks like my software has layers. No, it doesn't. You have spaghetti code that you don't even consider. Rewrite it into F sharp and you'll find out if you actually have layering or not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where each layer builds upon the other layer. And so, well, one other frustrating thing about F sharp is the compiler has a cute feature where after 100 errors, it doesn't report errors anymore. And so you're just like, for the longest time, there's 100 errors in the code. Okay, fix a bunch of them. There's 100 errors in the code. Oh, okay, keep fixing them. There's 100 errors in the code. Oh God, what does my life become? So there's a very proud, fantastic moment when you see there's 89 errors in your code. You're like, oh my God, I'm actually down to just 89 errors. It's not lying to me anymore. It's the most satisfying thing. And then like, once it's 89, you're like, that's less than 100. I can burn through these. And you just keep doing that. It's a long, painful process. You made an AI go through it. I still take the human approach to misery. I think humans should still suffer for things. So I'll say I want to pat myself on the back. I got continuous up and running on .NET 9.0-iOS 26.0. And I'm very proud of it. Like I said, I had to chop out big library dependencies, but the core editor, its ability to compile C# and F# code, those remain there. The interpreter had to be dumbed down a tiny bit because it made some assumptions about Xamarin that I was mentioning before. But I got the core thing, console.writeLine. Eventually, turns out they moved where console is. Console used to be in MS Core Lib. Now it's in a thing called system.console. Oh, that drove me a little batty figuring that part out. Like I said, this has deep ties to the runtime. It knows exactly how the runtime works. So I had this wonderful moment where it ran, James. It came up. The screen came up in all its purple glory. The syntax highlighting was working. The red squigglies are everywhere. I went to click the plus button, and then it crashed.
Oh no. So close.
But I was so happy. Like, just that moment of satisfaction of actually getting her up and running and seeing most of it start to execute was really great.
And did you get new UI with that? Was it all bubbly and glassy at that point, or was
it was bubbly and glassy? Yeah, all the buttons were all glassy. Yeah, so it was worth the little pain and torture there. Even on Mac, the toolbar gets little glass buttons. They're not as pretty. They're not nearly as nice as the iOS ones. See also are complaining about Mac OS 26.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were definitely significantly different than the other ones. I actually override a lot of the default styling in the app to give it a very clean look. And most of that styling actually worked out just fine also. So nice. I was very happy about that. But as you mentioned before, I have a whole separate issue, which is the business thing. Like, this is a version of the app. It is a very compromised version of the app compared to like what's on the App Store right now. And I need to make decisions about that. I want to talk about that. But first, let's just marvel in Frank suffering through 8 billion error messages and making it. If I can port continuous, you can port any of your apps.
That's true. Yeah, it's, nothing is impossible. I think that the fun part about the errors, like you were saying, is like when you compile like a .NET MAUI application, like the AI is just like .NET build and it's like go, but it's actually compiling like 4 versions of the app, right? So like when you see
Okay.
the errors, it's times 4 because
Yeah,
it's an
right.
error in all 4 of the
Android,
TFMs.
iOS,
So
yeah,
I was just like,
okay.
oh my god! I was like, I first opened it up, it's like it's got 86 errors, and I was like, oh my gosh! And then to find out that it was like all the same one or what, it was like all this like
Yeah,
very simple stuff, and I was like, okay, wow, like, and then it was just like boop 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 boop, and like finally got it down. Like that moment that it launches, you're like, wow, that's great. So,
yeah.
which is very
Well,
cool.
there's hope. There's hope at the
Yeah.
end of the tunnel. This doesn't matter to anyone, but I still have a weird issue where I just can't show a pop-up. And this is only for the Mac Catalyst version. On iOS, it works fine. Every time I try to show a pop-up, she just hard crashes. Nothing in the console. No LLDB. Usually you get
Hmm.
like an assert from UI
Yeah.
kit or something like that.
Nothing.
Hard crash, hard,
Huh.
ugly crash. So that might be one I throw at the AI, but I look through every log on the computer and I cannot isolate that one. So all my
Huh.
pop ups show is sheets now, which is not as elegant, but it's a solution for the moment. And I should also say, this is more of a business thing too, but I don't think I would actually ship the Mac Catalyst version on Mac. If I wanted a Mac version, I think I would actually write a Mac UI for it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of nice having the Mac Catalyst environment for testing and debugging and all that kind of stuff.
Well, it's the same with the Maui app. I left the Windows and Mac version because I'm like, oh, it's just be way easier to debug,
Yeah.
just on Windows, and I'm going to spin up an Android emulator every single time for whatever I want to do. I was like, oh, boom, and you get better performance and crash reports and all this other stuff. Besides like Java interop craziness. But yeah, so I mean, what are you going to do at this point? I mean, is it is it that is this continuous 2, or is this like, is this continuous light? Is it, does continuous go away? You know what I mean? The old
uh
version, you replace it, so it's something new.
yeah, it's tough, huh? Yeah. I think, and please don't hold me to this, everyone, but my
Holding
current
you.
feeling is I kind of want to do a continuous two.
Hmm.
So the app at this point is 8 years old. And I think, Visual Studio sells a new version every year. I don't think it's too wrong of me to ask users to buy another version. I wish I could offer like an in-app purchase, but I can't modify the current one on the store. So I think I might actually start with an all new SKU. But and that will not be a trivial amount of work. That's going to be minimum 1 month, probably more like 3 months if I'm being at all realistic to get the thing polished up. Especially if I do what I want to do is have a proper Mac native client, not Mac Catalyst, but actually using AppKit and be a fully proper Mac app.
Yeah.
And part of the decision, there's the like pros and cons. Like I have to put a lot of work into this, and I really can't offer an in-app purchase. So that's one reason to charge for it. But another reason is things have changed since I've originally designed Continuous. So a lot of my effort went into writing an on-device interpreter. Well, James, there's an interpreter built into .NET now that
Yeah.
anyone can use in all their apps also. And it's actually quite fantastic because building this app on these M4 computers we both bought, which are very fast computers, still takes roughly 100 seconds, so a little over a minute and a half to do like an iOS deploy.
Wow.
But you can put use interpreter in your F sharp project file, not my C sharp, F sharp project file, and now it takes like 20 seconds and it zaps it over to the device and everything works great. And so I think there have been some fundamental changes in how .NET works, on how all this stuff works, where on iOS, I can now take advantage of the built-in interpreter with pros and cons. It's not as well sandboxed as mine. Mine can handle like certain errors and things. The app might become a little bit more crashy on iOS, but it will also remove a lot of bugs. It'll be more capable than what my interpreter could do, and certainly faster. Pros and cons. So I think I'd actually offer both modes, like run with the safe interpreter, my old
Yeah.
one, and then run with the modern one. But then on Mac, where I keep thinking like, Visual Studio for Mac was discontinued, and now we all have Rider and VS Code, which are both good IDEs, but I think there's room for a third competitor on the Mac, and I think I would actually be interested in building my own IDE, especially with all the AI stuff that's come along. There's improvements to be made, and it'd be nice to take advantage of the built-in dotnets on the actual desktop machine versus always relying on these interpreters and my cute fancy way of executing code, but just use the actual installed SDKs and make
Yeah.
it a free IDE. So it's a bit of work, all this kind of stuff. But now that I have like the original code base compiling and everything, well, now it's just a matter of adding in those features and refining it. The code editor still works, my IntelliSense still works. I just have to keep adding and changing and all that kind of stuff. I'm a little nervous, but like I feel like that's what I want. I want a
Yeah.
continuous version too.
Yeah. Build apps for yourself. That's what I say. I think that the other thing that's changed too is since you released this app, if you've been listening to this podcast for the last 8 years, which seems about right,
Yeah.
you may know that forever Frank never did in-app purchases. All of his apps were for pay. That has
Hmm.
changed a little bit more recently in some of your apps, and especially new ones, but even some of the legacy older ones
Hmm.
as you've migrated them. But yeah, there's an opportunity here to say, okay, like, do I think I can get a foundation of 100 users, 1,000 users paying me
Yeah.
$5 a month, right? If you
Yeah.
could get 500 users paying you $2 a month, that's an extra grand in your pocket every month. That's 12 grand a year, right? That's pretty
Hmm.
good. Like, I don't know what your sales were of continuous, but like, hey, if I have this recurring revenue, you get $10 a month, you get 1,000 users, it's $10,000 in your, minus 30%. That's $7,000 in your pocket every month. Wow, that's pretty great. Like, you're living pretty good, which is kind of crazy to think about. So you could create like a very niche ecosystem, right, in a recurring revenue model type of thing if you figure out what that looks like. And of course, you have a free tier and all this other stuff. So you can obviously, but you can have a lot of features, like you said, and you might be encouraged then to add new features as well if you're on this like premium pro upgrade system, subscription system that's out there into the world. It's not like unrealistic, right? Maybe even do like
Hmm.
like Plex does this. I have Plex Pass.
Hmm.
Plex Pass is like the best deal in history. Even if like I bought Plex Pass when it was like unlimited lifetime, $20, like 20
Oh,
years
really?
ago. Yeah,
Nice.
now it's like $150 or whatever. But like, you just have some crazy of like, oh, just do the whole boom, 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 right? And you like full upgrade, unlock forever, lifetime. Um, but yeah, then you can sunset the older one too. You can just like remove it from the
Hmm.
market and say this one's done, right? And it's not going to
Yeah.
last forever. So if you have it, cool. Beans, thanks for the $15, $10 or whatever you charge. Is like now it's
Hmm.
time to kind of upgrade. So I think that might be like another encouraging route, which is it's really hard now. It's always hard to go back and say, well, you paid for this. Now I'm going to make it free, but I'm going to try to charge people and do this stuff. How do you do this tiered system? It's really tricky. You can go the other way, which is it was free, and then now you have a upgrade tier pro plus model, right? But it's hard to go the other way around, which is like people like
Yeah.
expectation wise. I bought something, I own it, which, as we know, and the year of our license to rent software from companies, you don't
Yeah.
really own anything anymore. Do I own this podcast microphone? Who knows? But yeah, I think that's a good motivation too. Is like, hey, I want to fundamentally not just shift the application, but fundamentally shift the business model, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's tough because ideally I would pop up a dialogue in the old version and be like, "Hey, thanks for the business. Glad you love this thing. There's a new version out. I'd love it if you'd go purchase that." I
Here's a
can't
discount
even put
code.
up that
Boom.
dialogue though. I can't put that up without replacing their executable and by compromising theirs. And
Yeah,
that was the line I'm just not willing to cross. Like someone paid for it for the feature set that it has, and I just can't take any of that away, and I can't replicate that feature set right now.
yeah,
So I think I have to do a SKU. So I'm going to miss out on that perfect marketing thing of being able to upsell or convert people over to the new version. But that just means I'm going to have to do more marketing, manual marketing of publishing on all the socials, running a few ad campaigns, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think that's just kind of, just because I hate marketing doesn't mean I shouldn't do marketing. Like it's still a
Yeah.
viable way to do it, and there is still a nice group of .NET developers still purchasing continuous. I make money on it every day. Thank you all. I love you. And I feel like they deserve a more modern version because
Yeah.
like I can make it more capable than what it was in that version. And I think, aside from having to give me more money, it'll be good for them. It'll be
Yeah.
beneficial to everyone. It'll be good for me. It'll be good for the customers.
Yeah, give me some Git integration and log in, spin it
Yeah,
up, and be good. And then I think the other part too is now, right, in our year 2025, like with these newer devices, you have a little free AI agent just waiting to generate code for you inside of continuous too.
exactly. Definitely, I'm definitely putting Apple Intelligence in it. We'll see if
That's what I'm
I
saying.
want to. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's what I'm
Um,
saying is like, you did those trial runs with Apple Intelligence, the on device APIs. Like now,
mhm.
you could have a little chatbot there, Frank AI.
Can just say generate the app for me, and then start going from there. Let's start, instead of file new dialogue. It can just be a prompt. Prompt me, and I will generate for you a little .NET app to start
That is
things
great.
off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? I think that would be kind of, next generation, especially for the free stuff that's on device, which will only get better over time, right? So,
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yep. So I think it all started for me like I desperately needed to do a bug fix. Realized, oh, thank goodness I don't actually have to do that. Then it was, can I get this thing ported? Succeeded in that, but then realized from a business perspective, from a time perspective, money perspective, let's be clear, I actually need to put a lot more effort into it than just getting it converted. So I'm
Yeah.
happy you were able to get your app up and it's a free app and you're just going to post that thing. For me, I have a bit more work ahead of me. But
Yeah.
probably kind of the good kind of work though, where it's more design work.
Yeah.
I'm actually improving the app.
Yeah. I think like I could have gotten away with like the whole crazy API thing, just like because at least there's like a endpoint that it's hitting that it could be reproduced. But I felt like it was time. It's good. And my biggest worry of like having done some of these early migrations in the past was like, this momentum amount of work to like libraries, this and that. But because I've waited so long, like all the libraries that
Yeah,
I want are there besides my in-app billing
yeah,
library, which I don't use anymore
yeah.
anyways. But like besides that, it's like, stuff is, done pretty good. And the reason I wanted to move it on at 10 early on is because I knew there was a few breaking changes coming in that, like with the windowing system and the main page and a few other things that they changed. Nothing, I think they're not breaking changes, but it's like, hey, like it's Apple.
Modernization.
This
Yeah,
is really going away. You really need to
yeah.
do this. Like this is happening. So I'm just happy that I have it up and running. And now
Mhm.
actually I could ship a Windows app and a Mac app, which I might actually do because, I know that there's a
Why
website,
not?
but people might want it. It's just right there. So it's a good practice.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah.
it's actually kind of lovely having that Mac Catalyst option. Like for most apps, I would do that. It's just some things like an IDE like this, you really want it to feel like a fully, at least me personally, I
Yeah.
want the full native feel.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited. I think that we're pretty much hopefully almost done with our
We're
migrations. I still
modernizing.
got still got another one to do, but it's
I
good.
still got
Yeah.
to
It's
learn
fine.
from you. I got to automate more though. We'll see how many of these features I can automate.
Yeah, I think that's a good word to use, right? Like I think inherently when you think of there's always been like modernization or migration like tools that are just automating a bunch of like key steps and like doing these things. That's kind of how I treated it. And then the difference is I made sure that I had the context. So the biggest thing I did, if people are really curious about how I did it, is I just configured a few MCP servers. So model context protocol servers. There is a Microsoft Learn MCP server. And what is great about that, these things are smart. They can fetch the internet, but um, the MCP server for Microsoft Learn has, I think, I'm going to boot it up here. I think like I want to say 3 or 4 tool calls. Let me see here. Microsoft Docs, MCP. It has fetch code sample search,
Mm,
fetch docs, and search docs. So inherently, it can go off and search and then fetch docs and also search for samples that are associated with it as well. So it has the context of like all of the .NET
Nice.
MAUI samples from the team, for example, that I can search and go through, grab, figure out the source code. And then because also I can parse all the GitHub things as GitHub MCP, it can go search, pull down anything from GitHub that it may need as well. And those were like the two real things in general that really helped out, I would say.
That's cool. I need to make sure I have that running in all my little IDEs because I didn't even know about that one. Pro tip.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Pro tip. I'm wondering if I have I was going to see if I have the original. I can't find the original prompt. I should have written down the original prompt of whatever it was. It was a big, spicy cook.
Yeah.
I don't see it. Might have
I
been.
hope they're recording that history somewhere. I'm sure you can dig it out of some log.
There is. There's like a local history, and I thought it was. I don't see it though. Is this it? Oh, hold on. I think did I find it?
Yeah, it's funny how hard it is to find logs sometimes. Like even OpenAI, I just asked for like a dump of every chat I've ever had because they still don't put timestamps in their chats for whatever reason. And so
Yeah. So
if I ever want timestamps, I have to download all my logs.
I found it. So what's really cool is in VS Code, there's also debug. So you can actually see every single thing that's sent to and from, but there's not timestamps on here. Here is my prompt. So if people are really ready, I said, this is my prompt. I said, using your vast knowledge and using the Microsoft Learn MCP server to search documentation, we need to convert the Meisner app, so I referenced the folder, which is currently Xamarin Forms, into a .NET MAUI app. I already created the .NET MAUI based project in the Meisner Next folder right here, and I installed the NuGet dependencies that you need. Some things to change are Newtonsoft JSON to system text JSON, though. Beyond that, keep the single project structure of the .NET MAUI app, and move things over and update as needed to the latest, including things in newer versions like frame to border, for example. Use the new community toolkit.mvvm for all the MVVM goodness. For observable range collection, simply bring in, and then I linked to a CS file on my GitHub, basically, because I didn't want to bring in that NuGet because I had a bunch of like conflicts with namings of the MVVM toolkit. And then that was it. That was the one prompt.
Nice.
Just using
Not bad.
using your vast knowledge, go and do it. And
you always got to talk up the AI a little. At least it's funny that you do that because I do that too. And you're a professional, and I do it just because
using
works on people. Why won't it work on an AI?
Using your superior knowledge of the life of times of all migrations ever. Yeah.
Well, I have a practical reason for doing that too, because you want to tell it like use your own smarts too. Don't look up everything. Like you know, figure it out on your own. Also, I think that's the little clue we're trying to give it.
Yeah, if you don't know something inherently or you have a question about it, then go look at the documentation, and then here's a tool for you to call. So, anyways, I'm glad that we both made some serious progress, and it's only Tuesday.
What will we have done in another week?
More.
The weather's turning bad. I'm just programming all the time
now. Let's see if we have any listener. Do we have any listener emails, Frank, before we wrap this puppy up? Let's take a look at the listener bag. Let me head over to the mergeconflictfm@gmail.com. You can email us. Nothing there. Okay, let's go to our YouTube where you can also leave comments. Be embarrassing if we don't have any comments. Let's see over here. I probably don't. No new comments. Well, give us your comments.
I will beg for everyone because I happen to like YouTube comments. I know the internet's against YouTube comments, but I love YouTube comments. So please leave your comments if you have any thoughts on the episodes.
And I know people are watching and listening because I see the statistics and the data. And actually, it's only been 2 days, and our last episode on YouTube has like a whole bunch of views. So that's cool.
Nice.
I think also because I put your face on the thumbnail with the mesh over it.
Oh, good. Excellent.
So,
from the app screenshot. I'm like, how did you get that?
Which fun fact, what you can do is you can go onto the website, like the Apple Store online. And then what you can do is you can use the dev tools, find the web P file that's there, and then the URL is like 643 underscore 0.webmp or whatever for like underscore 1012. The 643 is the scale. So I just did 1920 and then it scales it up because it's like it's WebMP. So it's just like
Smart.
doing the scaling and stuff. So dynamically. So I was like, boom. So I got this beautiful high res photo of your face with the
That's
stuff
hilarious.
on it. So anyway, go check that
it's always
out.
fun putting yourself in screenshots of apps. Always a crazy thing.
I like it. Hey, it's authentic.
Who else are you gonna put?
Yeah, don't need to waste your money on an actor. So
a model.
A model. All right, let's do it for this week's podcast. So until next week, I'm Jason Magno.
And I'm Frank Kruger. Thanks for watching and listening.
Peace.